Electromagnetic Crack Blaster! One of my favorite thing about anime and manga series is whenever a character does like a big flashy attack, they actually have to say the name of the attack. And in this week's chapter, Sanji is going up against Big Papa Vinsmoke himself, Jajji. And Jajji has some of the coolest techniques that I have ever heard. So let's get one thing straight. This week's chapter of One Piece was freaking awesome. Sanji versus his father, Jajji. Does it live up to the hype? Yeah, I think it does. Jajji is an incredibly destructive character with a lot of really cool abilities. Unlike Sanji, he is not afraid to use his fists, and he's certainly not afraid to use the technology that is used by Germa 66. Hell, he even uses this big, massive spear of destruction, which he uses in a number of different ways. Not to mention, he's just strong as shit. There's this one scene where Sanji ends up kicking him and trying to deflect one of his spears, and Jajji just grabs Sanji by the leg, spins around, and just throws him right into the dirt. Not to mention the electromagnetic crack blaster. That was such an amazing attack. I loved it because it shows a lot of the technology which is used by Germa 66. Jajji actually has these thrusters that are built into his boots, which amplify the power of his kicks, which he uses to send Sanji flying like a ragdoll. And like the other higher-ups of Germa 66, Jajji is not afraid to actually use a technique which he calls wall, where whenever he says that, the soldiers of Germa 66 will quite literally jump right in front of him, acting as a living shield, which he will use to his advantage, not only to block other attacks, but to use them to attack other people. He actually takes his spear, stabs it through this other soldier just so that he can get closer to Sanji. It's amazing. Now, aside from all of just the badass action in this week's chapter, which mostly just amounts to Jajji beating the ever-living shit out of his son, the biggest thing to take away from this chapter is that we finally start to see some flashbacks of Sanji with his family when he was much younger. It's also officially confirmed that he has 3 brothers and 1 sister, and they pretty much all treat him like crap. Even in the past, Sanji was a would-be chef. He loved to cook for people, but someone who's in a royal family should not have to do that. So his brothers, his sister, and even his father basically just gave him a lot of shit all the time, going as far as to beating the crap out of him and even locking him up in a cage. Jajji does not like his son whatsoever. He doesn't even really consider him a son. He's basically just going to be an important tool to teaming up with Big Mom so that they can take over everything. He really doesn't have a very close relationship with him at all, and I'm not really sure what this relationship is like with the other sons and daughter, but it seems a little better, to say the least. All I know is I loved finally getting to see Sanji's family life in the past and seeing what it was like and why he just desperately had to get away from these guys, which according to Sanji, they are way worse than they used to be. So at the end of the day, Sanji ends up getting his ass handed to him, and then they end up putting these weird cuffs on him, where if he tries to leave the island or escape, his hands are going to explode, which means he's going to have to do all of his cooking with his feet. And I don't think that's something he wants to do, and frankly, it'd be kind of gross. And to make matters worse, the only one who has the keys to these cuffs is Big Mom. So this is guaranteeing that we're going to get some sort of big confrontation with her, especially when Luffy and their crew finally arrive. So what's the rundown on this week's chapter of One Piece? Badass. This was a fantastic chapter of One Piece, one that I've been waiting for a really long time. The battle between Jajji and Sanji was really satisfying, incredibly hard-hitting, and had some great fighting choreography, not just from Jajji himself, but even from Sanji, who was using a lot of his tried-and-true techniques, using his armament hockey, lighting his leg on fire, but no matter what he used, Jajji always managed to push him back with his incredible strength and all of his technology, of which he apparently has a lot. Not to mention, he's just incredibly fast and powerful. The way he flies through the air, it's really impressive. After reading this week's manga chapter, my first thought was, man, I really hope they make this look good in the anime version, because this has been a pretty kick-ass fight right here. As far as the score for this week's chapter, you guys know that I'm a big action junkie, so I absolutely loved this chapter. It's a good thing that it was also backed up by some really great backstory from the characters and some great dialogue right here. Just a great read of One Piece all around, and it's hyping me up even more for the anime adaptation. I'm giving this one a 5 out of 5. Check it out, One Piece fans! And so there it is, that is my thoughts on this week's amazingly badass chapter of One Piece, Sanji versus Big Daddy Vinsmoke, Jajji. Make sure to check it out, One Piece fans. Let's face it though, if you are a One Piece fan, you've probably already read this chapter. And I would love to hear from you guys, and you can tell me what you thought about this week's chapter in the comment section below. What did you think of the battle between Sanji and Jajji? Did you have any favorite moments from this chapter? What do you think is going to happen in the rest of this brand new arc, and what do you hope to see? Make sure to tell me in the comment section below. You guys are kick-ass. Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.